The moment his voice exploded across the diner, it felt like the entire world tilted against me. Conversations died mid-sentence, forks froze halfway to mouths, and every pair of eyes locked onto me like I had just committed something unforgivable. I could feel the heat rushing into my ears as his words echoed, loud and sharp, cutting through the room like glass. He accused me in front of everyone, pointing first at me and then toward the small girl sitting alone in the corner booth, as if I had done something shameful. In that instant, I wasn't just a waitress anymore. I was the example he wanted to make, the mistake he wanted everyone to see. My name is Vera, I am 27 years old, and at the time, I was barely holding my life together. I worked early mornings at a small diner called Waverly while dragging myself through night classes, trying to build something better for my future. Money was always tight. Every paycheck had a purpose before it even reached my hands. Rent, tuition, groceries, all lined up like bills waiting to swallow me whole. Still, I showed up every morning before sunrise, tying my apron, pouring coffee, and smiling like everything was fine. That diner wasn't glamorous, but it had its own rhythm, its own quiet kind of warmth that made it feel like more than just a job. For 3 years, my mornings started at 5 o'clock sharp. I would unlock the doors, breathe in the smell of coffee and grease, and prepare for the rush. The regulars came like clockwork, construction workers with tired eyes and big appetites, teachers grading papers between bites, older couples who shared meals to save money but always left generous tips. They knew me, remembered small details about my life, asked about my classes, and celebrated my birthday like I was family. In a strange way, that diner became my safe place, even if the paycheck barely kept me afloat. Then one morning, about 2 weeks before everything changed, I noticed her. She slipped in quietly at exactly 7 o'clock, like she didn't want to be seen. She couldn't have been older than 10. Her yellow jacket hung loosely over her thin frame, and she held her backpack close to her chest like it was something precious. She chose the farthest booth, the one tucked into the corner where people rarely looked. When I approached her, she didn't lift her head. Her voice was barely a whisper when she ordered an egg sandwich, so soft that I had to lean in just to catch her words. The first time she paid, I noticed her hands trembling slightly as she counted out crumpled bills and coins. She came up short, just a little under $2. She didn't say anything about it, didn't ask for help, just stared at the table as if waiting for me to send her away. Something about that silence stayed with me. I covered the difference without a word and placed a glass of milk beside her plate, telling her that growing kids needed something to drink with their breakfast. She didn't respond, didn't smile, didn't even look at me, but she ate every single bite. That became our routine. Every morning at 7, the yellow jacket would appear. The same order, the same quiet payment, always just a little short. And every time, I quietly filled the gap. I never made a big deal out of it. I didn't want her to feel like a charity case, but I noticed things. The way her eyes kept darting to the door, like she was expecting someone or afraid someone might walk in. The way she sat stiffly, barely moving, like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. She never spoke beyond those 2 words, egg sandwich. But somehow, her silence said more than any conversation ever could. Then came the morning everything unraveled. Rick, the manager, had always been strict, but that day, he decided to make a spectacle out of me. His voice cut through the diner as he accused me of giving away food, of breaking rules, of costing the business money. He made sure everyone heard it. I could feel the weight of every stare in that room, judging me, misunderstanding me. I tried to explain, telling him she was just a child, that I couldn't let her go to school hungry. But he shut me down immediately. To him, it wasn't about compassion, it was about policy. While he spoke, I saw the girl in the corner. She had frozen, her small shoulders curling inward, her eyes fixed on the untouched sandwich in front of her. The shame on her face hit me harder than Rick's words ever could. Before I could reach her, she grabbed her bag and ran out of the diner. Just like that, she was gone, a flash of yellow disappearing into the morning. And I stood there, powerless, humiliated, and angry, not at Rick, but at myself for letting it happen. He dragged me into his office afterward and shoved a warning notice across the desk. The room smelled like stale smoke and cheap cologne, and the air felt suffocating. He told me to sign it, said it was my first and only warning, and made it clear that if I kept bending the rules, I would lose my job. I wanted to argue, to tell him everything I had seen, everything I knew about that girl, but the words stayed trapped inside me. I needed that job, so I signed the paper, even though it felt like I was signing away something much bigger than just a warning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head, the look on her face, the way she ran. I felt sick thinking about her going hungry because of me. By morning, I had made a decision. if she came back, I would pay for her meal myself, completely, no shortcuts, no risks. Rick couldn't say anything if it was coming out of my own pocket. It was the only way I could fix what had happened. But she didn't come. 7 o'clock passed, then 7:15, then 7:30. Each minute felt heavier than the last. I found myself staring at the door, hoping to see that yellow jacket walk in, but it never did. A knot formed in my stomach as my mind raced with possibilities. Maybe she was scared, maybe she had decided never to come back, or maybe something worse had happened. Then, at around 8:15, everything changed again. A black SUV pulled up outside the diner, sleek and polished, completely out of place in our small, worn-down street. The entire diner seemed to hold its breath as suited men stepped out, scanning the area before opening the rear door. A tall man emerged, dressed sharply, carrying himself with a quiet authority that made everyone instinctively take notice. When he walked in, the room fell silent in a way I had never experienced before. Rick rushed out to greet him, suddenly polite in a way I had never seen. But the man ignored him completely. His eyes moved across the room, focused, searching. Then he spoke, his voice calm but powerful, asking one simple question. He wanted to know who had been helping his daughter. My heart started pounding as I stepped forward, unsure of what this meant. When I told him it was me, he looked at me carefully, studying my face like he was trying to understand something deeper. Then his expression softened, and what he said next changed everything. He told me about his daughter, about how she hadn't spoken to anyone properly in 3 years, ever since her mother passed away, about how she had shut down completely, despite therapy, despite every effort to help her. And then he told me that I was the first person she had spoken a full sentence to since that day. I felt my throat tighten as he handed me a folded note. I recognized it instantly. It was the one she had left behind the day before, something I hadn't even realized the importance of at the time. The words were simple, written in uneven handwriting, but they carried a weight that hit me straight in the chest. She had thanked me, not just for the food, but for talking to her like she mattered. Before I could even process it fully, he offered me something I never expected. He said he wanted to give me an opportunity to help me open my own place, fully funded. At first, I thought I had misunderstood him. It didn't feel real, but the way he looked at me, steady and sincere, made it clear that he meant every word. And then, as if the moment wasn't already overwhelming enough, the door opened again. She walked in. The yellow jacket was still there, but this time she wasn't hiding. She approached me slowly, and for the first time, she looked directly into my eyes. When she spoke, her voice was small but clear, asking if I would still have egg sandwiches. I dropped to her level, tears already falling, and told her that I would have them every single day. 1 month later, my life looked completely different. The new cafe opened just a few blocks away. It was warm, welcoming, and built on one simple idea, that no child should ever be turned away hungry. We created a system where people could pay for meals in advance for others who couldn't afford them. It wasn't just a business, it was something more meaningful than I had ever imagined. She came every morning, helping in small ways, slowly finding her voice again. Watching her grow, seeing her open up little by little, became the most rewarding part of my life. And one day, I realized something that changed how I saw everything. Sometimes the moments that feel like humiliation, like failure, like everything is falling apart, are actually the moments that redirect your life in the most unexpected ways. If that morning had never happened, if Rick had never shouted, if I had never been pushed to that breaking point, none of this would exist. And every time I see a child walk through that door, uncertain, quiet, maybe a little scared, I remember exactly why I chose kindness, even when it cost me. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness doesn't just change someone else's life, it changes yours forever.